So let us discuss the GST paper of Jan 2021 attempt. First we'll discuss question 5. Star Limited, a registered supplier in Karnataka, has provided the following details for supply of one machine. What is the details? List price of the machine supplied exclusive of items given in 2 to 4. That means without adjusting the items given in 2 to 4. List price is rupees 80,000. Taxes levied by local authority on sale of such machine 6,000. Discount of 2% on the list price of the machine was provided. The same has been recorded in the invoice of the machine. Okay. Packing expenses for safe transportation charged rupees 4,000. Star Limited received rupees 5,000 as subsidy from NGO on sale of each such machine. The price of rupees 80,000 of the machine is after considering such subsidy. During the month of February 2020, Star Limited supplied 3 machines to intrastate customers and 1 machine to interstate customer. Star Limited purchased inputs for 1,20,000 exclusive of GST for supplying the above 4 machines during the month. So 3 machines is intrastate and 1 machine is interstate. Okay. Then what they have given, the balance of ITC in the beginning of the month: CGST 18,000, SGST 4,000, IGST 26,000. Note, rate of CGST, SGST, IGST 9,918 respectively. All amounts given are exclusive of GST. All conditions necessary for availing ITC have been fulfilled. Compute the minimum net GST payable in cash by Star Limited for the month of February 2020. Okay, so it's a very easy question. First you have to find out the taxable value. And then you have to compute the minimum GST payable in cash. So let us look at the suggested answer now. These suggested answers are given by me. Whatever assumptions I have taken, I have given it in the questions appropriately. Okay. So let us look at the solution now. List price of the goods is 80,000. Subsidy amounting to rupees 5,000. Change this to 5,000. It's a typo. 5,000 received from NGO. Subsidy is received from NGO. The same is to be included in the value as per section 15. So I have given the note appropriately here, 5,000. Then taxes levied by municipal authority to be included in the value as per section 15, 6,000. Then packing charges being incidental expenses, the same are again includable. I have included. Then discount of 2% on the list price of the machine. We know the discount at the time of supply, and the discount is also shown in the invoice. So therefore it can be deducted from the value in terms of section 15. So 1,600 I am deducting. So value of taxable supply is 93,400. Computation of minimum net GST payable in cash by Star Limited. So now let us see the minimum GST payable. Intrastate outward supply of goods. We have taken 93,400 into 3, 2,80,200, 25,218, 25,218. 9% is the GST as given in the question. Then interstate outward supply of goods, 93,400 into 1, 93,400, that is 16,812, 18% of this amount. Total tax liability 25,218, 25,218 and 16,812. Brought forward ITC they have given us in the question 18,000, 4,000 and 26,000. Then we also know that in the question they have given purchase of 1,20,000 excluding GST. So purchase we are taking 10,800. You can add 1,20,000 here. I will make the correction in the files which I am sharing, and I will share this file in our Telegram group. You can download this file from our Telegram group. Total ITC is 28,800, 14,800 and 26,000. So now let us start offsetting. As you know the offset rules, first we will set off the IGST input against IGST output, and leftover we can set off with CGST or SGST in any proportion. I have given all the notes here. So first I am setting off IGST 16,812, balance of 9,188, that is 26,000 minus 16,812. I am setting it off against SGST because I have sufficient required balance of CGST. So there is no use of setting it off against CGST. We need minimum cash outflow. So I will set it off fully against SGST. SGST input tax credit 14,800. So net amount payable in cash is 1,230 and carry forward balance of CGST is 3,582. So this is the answer for the first question. Next, let us do question number 6A. Green Agro Services, a registered person, provides the following information relating to its activity during the month of February 2020. Gross receipts relating to rearing of sheep 6 lakhs, Services by way of artificial insemination of horses 4 lakh, processing of sugarcane into jaggery 8 lakhs, milling of paddy into rice 7 lakh 50,000, and services by way of fumigation in warehouse of agricultural produce 1 lakh 18,000. All the above receipts are exclusive of GST. Compute the value of taxable supplies for the month of Feb 2020. So this is a direct question from exemptions chapter. Exemptions, and that too agriculture. Okay, so let us see the answer. Services relating to rearing of sheep. Services relating to cultivation of plants, rearing of all form of animals except rearing of horses for food, fiber, fuel, raw material. We know this is exempt as per entry number 54. So the value will be nil. Then services by way of artificial insemination of horses. As per the entry given in the notification, that is entry number 55A, insemination of animals is exempt except horses. Other than horses is only exempt. So this will become taxable, 4 lakh rupees. Processing of sugarcane into jaggery. This is not a normal process which is performed. It is changing the essential characteristics. It is changing it from sugarcane to jaggery. Therefore, this will be taxable, 8 lakhs. Then milling of paddy into rice. CBIC, via the circular number 19/19/2017, has clarified that this service will be a taxable service. It will not be given any exemption. Again, here the essential characteristics is changing. So 7 lakh 50 will again be taxable. Services by way of fumigation in a warehouse of agricultural produce, it is exempt as per entry number 53A. So we'll take it as exempt. So value will be nil. So total value of taxable supply will be rupees 19 lakh 50,000. Next, let us see question number 6B. Satya Sai Residents Welfare Association, a registered person under GST. So they have already given that this association is registered. So we don't have to check whether they are liable for registration or no. They have already given in the question that this person is a registered person. Has 30 members each, paying rupees 8,000 as maintenance charges per month for sourcing of goods and services from third person for common use of its members. Perfect. The association purchased a water pump for 59,000 including GST of 9,000 and availed input services of 23,600 inclusive of GST of 3,600 for common use of its members during the month of February 2020. What they are telling us? Compute the GST payable, if any, by Satya Sai Residents Welfare Association for February 2020. GST rate is 18%. All transactions are intrastate. There is no opening balance of ITC. All conditions necessary for ITC are fulfilled. If you guys remember, in our class we discussed a circular wherein CBIC had clarified certain things regarding Residents Welfare Association. I have produced the extract of that circular here. We know that already this Resident Welfare Association is registered. So we don't have to get into the discussion whether they are liable to register or no. The only part what we have to do is whether they are eligible to take ITC and what is the GST payable, if any. We have to compute. Okay. So in the clarification given by CBIC, there is a question. Is the RW entitled to take ITC of GST paid on input and input services used for making supplies to its members and use this ITC for discharge of GST liability where the amount is 7,500 rupees or more per month per member? Yes. In our question, it's 8,000 rupees per month per member. They are also registered in GST. What is the answer? Are entitled to take ITC of GST paid by them on capital goods, that is generator, water pumps, lawns, furniture, etc. So water pumps have been given in the clarification given by CBIC itself. Goods, taps, pipes and other sanitary and hardware fittings and input services such as repairs and maintenance. So they are eligible to take ITC of capital goods, the normal goods as well as input services. For example, they have given repair and maintenance services. So taking the above into consideration, we can answer the question as follows. So output, they have given all is intrastate. So output tax liability will be 8,000 into 30 members into 9%. 8,000 into 30% into 9% for CGST, SGST respectively. That is rupees 21,600, 21,600. So this is in rupees 21,600, 21,600 less input tax credit. Input tax credit, what they have given in question, 9,000 rupees. So this will be 4,500 plus 4,500 and this is 3,600. So it will be 3,600 divided by 2. So 1,800 plus 1,800, 1,800 plus 1800 here. So I have given that here 4500 plus 1800, 6300, 6300. So balance, this will be less. So balance will be 15,300, 15,300. What I am assuming is this 8,000 what they have given in the question. I have assumed that the same 8,000 rupees collected given above is excluding GST, because they have not given anything in the question whether it is including GST or excluding GST. So I am considering it as excluding GST. Perfect. So till now we have seen two questions, quite easy paper. Now let us go to section 7A. I hope all of you have done very well. ABC Cinemas, a registered person engaged in making supply of services by way of admission to exhibition of cinematographic films in multiplex screens, was issuing consolidated tax invoice. Multiplex people issuing consolidated tax invoice, it should immediately strike you. This was an amendment, latest amendment. It should have struck you immediately that they are not eligible to issue consolidated tax invoice. Let us see what is happening further in the question. For supplies at close of each day in terms of section 31(3)(b) of CGST Act, read with 4th proviso to rule 46. Okay. During the month of October 16, the department raised objection for this practice and asked to issue separate tax invoice for each ticket. Advise ABC Cinemas of the procedure to be followed in light of the recent notifications. Okay. First, when can a person issue consolidated invoice, or who is the person who can issue consolidated tax invoice? Let us see. A registered person may not issue a tax invoice if the value of goods or supplies or both is less than rupees 200, the recipient is unregistered, the recipient does not require such invoice. So 3 cumulative conditions: value should be less than 200, recipient is unregistered, and the recipient does not require such invoice. Instead, such registered person can issue a consolidated tax invoice for such supplies at the close of each day in respect of all such supplies. Okay. So if you see prima facie, it will appear to you that it is fine. He can issue consolidated tax invoice if the price is less than rupees 200. But let us see further. Does a small taxpayer like small retailers doing large number of small transactions for up to a value of rupees 200 per transaction to unregistered customers need not issue invoice for every such transaction? They can issue a consolidated invoice at the end of each transaction done during the day. Perfect. Now, there was an amendment. With effect from 1/9/2019, this option will not be available to a supplier engaged in making supply of services by way of admission to exhibition of cinematographic films in multiplex screen. So what ABC Cinemas has done is completely wrong. They cannot issue a consolidated tax invoice. But what is the contention of the department? The department is telling they have to issue separate tax invoice for each ticket. This is also not correct. Why? Let us see. Again, there was an amendment, recent amendment, wherein it was said that in case of multiplex cinemas, where people are running multiplex cinemas, the ticket itself will be considered as an invoice, provided it has certain particulars. So what was the exact amendment? Let us see. Following suppliers may issue a tax invoice, but they are also permitted to issue any other document in lieu of tax invoice by whatever name called. So here they say admission to exhibition of cinematographic films in multiplex screens. This option is also available to other persons if they want to. What is it? Shall be required to issue an electronic ticket. The said electronic ticket is deemed to be a tax invoice even if such ticket does not contain the details of the recipient of service but contains other information as mentioned in Rule 46. So here what the department is telling that for each ticket you have to issue a separate tax invoice is also not correct. So hence the objection of the department is partly correct, but the supplier is not compulsorily required to issue tax invoice as he has the option that is given above. Correct? So what he can do, he can opt for this and issue electronic tickets wherein all the details are contained as per the Rule 46. Done? So this is the answer for question 7A. Now let us go to question 7B. Agni Limited, a registered supplier, wishes to transport cargo by road to two cities situated at a distance of 368 kilometers. Okay. Calculate the validity period of e-way bill under 138(10) of CGST Rule 2017 for transport of the said cargo if it is over-dimensional cargo or otherwise. So both you have to do. If it is over-dimensional cargo, if it is not over-dimensional cargo. So let us see what is the provision given in Rule 138 sub Rule 10. Okay, so it says up to 100 kilometers in case of cargo other than over dimensional cargo. So what is the time you get? 1 day. Next, for every 100 kilometer or part thereof thereafter, that means for every additional 100 kilometers you get 1 additional day. This is in case of cargo other than over dimensional cargo. Then if you come to over dimensional cargo, up to 20 kilometers you get 1 day, then for every additional 20 kilometers you get 1 additional day. So based on this provision, if you see, if it is an over dimensional cargo, 368 kilometers divided by 20 kilometers per day, you will get 19 days. It will come 18.4, but you have to take upper rounding off because it is part also. So it will be 19 days. Then if it is other than over dimensional cargo, so for every 100 kilometers 1 day, so for 368 kilometers it will be 4 days. Done. Next, let us see question 7c. Question 7c. The aggregate turnover of Mr. Prithvi, a registered person, for financial year 17-18 and 18-19 was 140 lakhs and 170 lakhs respectively. He has not filed the annual return GSTR 9 under section 44(1) before the due date. Discuss the penal provisions, if any, for not filing the returns before the due date. Okay, so now this is a very good question which Institute has asked, because for financial year 17-18 and 18-19, the department had issued a clarification. So there can be two answers for this question. One, if you go as per what the section says, and one, if you go what as per the departmental circular or clarification says. Let us see both. All registered persons are required to file annual return. However, the following persons are not required to file annual return. Who are those? All are required, but few exceptions. Casual taxable person, non-resident taxable person, input service distributor, and person authorized to deduct tax and collect tax at source, section 51 or section 52. So our case is not covered in any of this. That means we are required to file annual return. The annual return for financial year needs to be filed by 31st December of the next financial year. Perfect. Okay. If it is not filed, what is the late fee? Late fee levied for delay in filing annual return under section 44. A registered person who fails to file annual return by the due date is required to pay late fee as under. Quantum of late fee, rupee 100 for every day during which the failure continues, or 0.25% of the turnover of the registered person, whichever is lower. So lower of this both is the penalty which you have to pay. Okay. This, what I am telling is CGST Act provisions. So equivalent penalty will also be applicable under SGST Act. So the total will be 200 rupees per day or 0.5% of the turnover. Okay, but clarification issued or notification issued by the department. Note, filing of annual return for financial year 17-18 and 18-19 was made optional for small taxpayers whose turnover is less than 2 crores. In our case, the turnover is 140 lakhs and 170 lakhs. That is 1.4 crores and 1.7 crores. So we may fall under this optional category. And who has not filed the said return before the due date. The notification number is 47/2019, 9/10/2019. So filing of annual returns was made optional for these two financial years if your turnover is less than 2 crores. So if we take this notification into account, then there will not be any late fee or penalty. Next, let us see question 8a. Mr. Anurag, a famous author, is engaged in supply of services by way of transfer or permitting the use or enjoyment of copyright covered under Clause A of subsection 1 of section 13 of Copyright Act 1975 relating to the use of original literary work to a publisher. Again, this question is related to the latest amendment. Yes? New entry was inserted in the reverse charge provision. Explain in brief the conditions under which an author can choose to pay tax under forward charge. If you remember, in that reverse charge notification entry, we studied that if the author wants, he can also opt for forward charge. So they are asking what is the conditions under which the author can opt for forward charge. Very easy question. What is it? He should take registration under the CGST Act and file a declaration in the prescribed form. Yes, first take registration and then file a declaration in the prescribed form, telling that he has exercised the option under CGST Act to pay GST under forward charge. Yes, pay GST under forward charge in accordance with section 9(1) of the CGST Act, and he should also give a declaration that he will comply with all the provisions as it applies to a person who has to pay GST under forward charge. So all the provisions he has to comply, and he should also not withdraw the said option for a period of 1 year from the date of exercising such option. So once you select this option, 1 year you cannot back out. For 1 year you have to pay tax under forward charge. He also makes a declaration on the invoice issued by him in the prescribed form to the publisher. So whatever invoice he is giving to the publisher, in that invoice also he has to give a declaration that he has opted for forward charge, and the publisher need not pay GST under reverse charge. Yes, next question 8b. Under the provisions of section 29(1) of CGST Act 2017, read with 21A of CGST rules related to suspension of registration, if the registered person has applied for cancellation of registration, what is the period and manner of suspension of registration? So if you guys remember, we discussed in class that before cancelling registration, first they will suspend your registration, then they will conduct the proceedings. During the period of suspension, you cannot make any taxable supplies. You can make supply, but you cannot issue tax invoice for that. We discussed this. What is the procedure? They are asking what is the procedure, period and manner of suspension. So let us see. Here there are two things possible. One, the department is suo moto cancelling or cancelling your registration, or two, you have applied for cancellation of registration. Two things is possible. You have defaulted, so the department is cancelling by themselves, or you are applying for cancelling your own registration. So let us see. Once a registered person has applied for cancellation of registration, the proper officer seeks to cancel his registration. The proper officer may suspend his registration during the pendency of the proceedings relating to the cancellation of registration filed. I told you, because immediately they will not cancel the registration. The department will check whether you have filed all your returns, whether you have paid all the taxes which are due. They will check everything. If there any ITC, whether you have reversed all your ITC, they will check everything, and then only they will cancel your registration. So during this period, they will suspend your registration. Now, where a registered person himself has applied for cancellation of registration, what is the time period and what is the manner? Where a registered person has applied for cancellation of registration, the registration shall be deemed to be suspended from 1. The date of submission of application, or 2. The date from which the cancellation is sought. You either submit the application and with immediately from that effect you want cancellation, or you submit an application and you mention a date in that with effect from this date you want your registration to be cancelled. Whichever is later, pending the completion of proceedings of cancellation of registration. So this is the period and manner when you yourself are applying for cancellation of registration. Where cancellation of registration has been initiated by the department in its own motion, where the proper officer has reason to believe that the registration of a person is liable to be cancelled, he may, after giving the person a said opportunity of being heard, may cancel the registration with effect from a date to be determined by him. He has the right to determine the date because he is suo moto cancelling it, pending the completion of proceedings of cancellation. Okay, now if a person's registration has been suspended, what he cannot do? He shall not make any taxable supply. He shall not be required to furnish any return. So what is the meaning of the expression taxable supply? Not make taxable supply means the registered person shall not issue a tax invoice, accordingly not to charge tax on supplies made by him during the period of suspension. He can do sales, but he should not charge tax because his registration is suspended. Suspension of registration shall be deemed to be revoked upon the completion of cancellation proceedings by the proper officer. Logical. Once the cancellation proceedings are completed and the officer cancels your registration, automatically the suspension has no use, it will get closed. Or the other thing what is possible is the officer is not cancelling your registration, he is restoring your registration. Yes, both things are possible. Such revocation shall be effective from the date on which the suspension had come into effect. Revocation, that is what he is cancelling the application, it will be retrospective. Where any order having any effect of revocation of suspension of registration has been passed, then the provisions relating to revised tax invoice and first return will be applicable. We have already discussed this. It will be as if the person has got a new registration. So he has to follow all these procedures. Okay, done. Next, one more question in this is, or explain the circumstances under which the proper officer can cancel your registration on his own. Okay, so suo moto, when the proper officer can cancel the registrations. So circumstances when a proper officer may cancel the registration on his own. In the following cases, registration can be cancelled by the proper officer from such date including any retrospective date as he may deem fit. So what are the things? A registered person has contravened the prescribed provisions. What is the provisions? We'll refer one below. A registered person has not filed return for continuous period of 6 months. Refer 2 below. We'll refer what is the point. 3. Voluntarily registered person has not commenced business within 6 months from the date of registration. He has obtained registration voluntarily, but he has not commenced his business. Then also the proper officer may suo motu cancel the registration. Registration was obtained by means of fraud, willful misstatement or suppression of facts. You are not true in disclosing the facts. So then also if the officer gets to know at a later point of time, he can cancel your registration. So what are the provisions on the contravention of which the officer can cancel your registration? Let us see. He does not conduct any business from the declared place of business. In the certificate of registration, when you are getting the certificate of registration, it will say principal place of business. You have given one address, but you are not conducting business from that address. That is one reason for cancelling. 2. Issues invoice or bill without supply of goods. You are doing only bill trading. You are just issuing bills, you are not giving goods. In that case also, if the officer gets to know, he can suo motu cancel the registration. Then you violate the provisions of section 171 of CGST Act. Now what is the section 171? We discussed something called as anti-profiteering measures, if you remember. So if you do any violation of that measures, then also your registration is liable to be cancelled. Or violates the provision of Rule 10A. What is Rule 10A? Regarding giving your bank account details. In registration chapter, we have discussed this. Okay. Then it says a registered person has not filed return for 6 continuous months. Here there is an exception for composite dealers. So it says 3 consecutive tax period in case of a person who has opted for composition levy. So the paper was not very difficult. We have discussed and seen all the answers. I hope all of you have done great, and all the best for your exams. Hope to see you soon. Bye. Thank you.